Vanchakalpa Turubjascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. This is one of my favorite days of the year, favorite festivals, and I'm so grateful that you include Prabhu and I in this very auspicious occasion. Thank you so much. I'm going to start by reading the offering I made that is in your Vyasa Puja book to your Gurudev. Dear Radhanath Maharaj, please accept my heartfelt obeisances, all glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. I am deeply delighted to have the opportunity to glorify you on the occasion of your 75th birthday. Enchant and be happy, Śrīla Prabhupāda writes. In this relationship of spiritual love, the pure devotee is absorbed in transcendental ecstasy. This state of ecstasy is described in the nectar of devotion. The sun is far above the planetary systems, and there is no possibility of it being covered by any kind of cloud. Similarly, when a devotee is purified like the sun, from his pure heart, there is a diffusion of ecstatic love which is more glorious than the sunshine. The first interaction I remember having with you was at the old Calcutta airport sometime in the 1990s. A group of about 6 god sisters traveling together arrived on the same flight as you and a few god brothers. Our cars had not yet arrived to take us to Mayapur, and we were unsure what to do. There were no cell phones. We were stuck. Whilst everyone else from the flight left, you alone stayed behind to help us arrange transportation. I'm not sure how long it took, but you didn't leave until we were safely packed and on our way. This simple act of kindness left a lasting impression on me. Since that time, I have witnessed and often heard about many such instances of your personal care and willingness to go out of your way to give your association and support. Your loving friendships with your god siblings have been a source of inspiration to me and so many others. You embody the same personal warmth and compassion with which Śrīla Prabhupāda interacted with his disciples. It doesn't matter one's position, what service one renders, or how steadily one maintains devotional service standards. You always offer understanding, encouragement, and heartfelt compassion. Another quality I deeply admire and aspire to emulate is your ability to be fully present with whomever you are speaking. Though you oversee multiple global projects and care for thousands of disciples, you still take time to stop, listen, and give your undivided attention to anyone who approaches you, making each person feel heard, valued, and understood. Because we have had the great fortune of hosting you in our home, I hold so many precious memories, small yet profound examples of your dedication and selfless service to Śrīla Prabhupāda and ISKCON, and of your loving exchanges with all who come near you. I'm especially grateful for your invaluable counsel and your affectionate relationship with Vaisesika Prabhu. Having a loving godbrother with whom he can confide and share genuine friendship is a gift of immeasurable worth. All your saintly qualities are perfectly balanced by a natural humanness that makes you approachable and easy to relate to. Your sense of humor, your love for the redwood forest, and your unique, observant way of engaging with the world are all part of your charm. Thank you for being a transparent medium for Śrīla Prabhupāda's divine mercy and for your steadfast loyalty to his mood and mission. Please engage me in any way that I might assist you in your glorious service. I pray that you continue for many more years in good health, in joyful service to Śrīla Prabhupāda. With loving best wishes, your servant Nirakula Dasi. We just, as many of you know, were in Govardhan, and then we had some time at GEV, and we were invited to take a tour of the kitchen for the yatra, and Radhanath Maharaj wanted to know when we would be there so he could come with us, or we would be there at the same time. And it was another really sweet exchange, him taking us around and having all the devotees show how they had put everything together, stirring big, huge pots, going to every single setup, where they were picking off individual leaves of the cilantro, no stems. I loved that. The chapati rollers, and then there was the devotees making the small offerings, and he's always so personal, and proud of what the devotees were doing in a really transcendental way. And then we went to GEV for a few days, and it was still Kartik. Maharaj came in from Mumbai, and we found out later that he wasn't feeling well. He was actually on antibiotics. But it was 7 o'clock at night. We had just finished chanting Damodar Astakam, and that's when we met him. And he must have been exhausted. He had done the yatra. He had done 3 days of meetings in Mumbai, but he had so much energy, and he took us on a nighttime tour of GEV. Devotees were running around flipping switches, and their flashlights, and again, it was so personal, showing us all the improvements that have been made, telling stories about how it had come, the things that were there had come. It was really a very joyful time. And then we got back to, in the golf cart, we got back to the cottage that we were staying in. And Maharaj came in and sat down and talked probably for another half hour or so while the devotees were still waiting outside. But that's what I mean. When he's with you, he's with you. And so we had more really nice conversation, nice association, and it was 11 o'clock by the time Maharaj went, back to his, and then he met us the next morning at the Goshal to take us around and show us some of the things we hadn't seen while it was now sunny, and the improvements and the stories and things like that. And he's just so transcendental. He's on antibiotics. He hadn't slept much, and it was just another one of those absolutely lovely experiences that I'll just treasure and cherish for all my days. And I just want to say too, I'm so proud of all of you and all of the service that you do, the selfless service that you do. You represent your Gurudev beautifully. So thank you. So happy to be part of this community and to have you all here. Hare Krishna.
Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vansha Galpazarubhascha Kripasandobhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavinibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasa Adi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I received from His Holiness Radhanath Swami a piece of advice which I hold dear and which I consider one of the most youthful pieces of advice I've ever received. In one of our conversations in which I was complaining about how overwhelming all the problems are in management, and I was listing some of the conflicts that were seemingly intractable, he gave me straightforward, very simple advice that I go back to again and again. He said to me, you have to be blissful in order to deal with problems. Therefore, your main duty as a leader, manager, is to find out how to make yourself blissful by being deeply absorbed in Krishna consciousness. I feel that this answer contains all of Śrīla Prabhupāda's most important instructions. It's at once practical and fully aligned with Śrīla Prabhupāda's mood. And I will say that Radhanath Swami exemplifies this because of his advancement in devotional service, despite the fact that he has service that is unimaginable for any one human being. He's able to handle it because he always remains blissful by being engaged in Krishna consciousness, hearing and chanting, remembering Krishna wherever he goes. And this is the key to life. I'm forever grateful to him for his association, for all he's doing for the Sankirtan movement, and for this one piece of advice which has kept me steady and engaged in service over so many years. Om Tat Sat. Just as an observation of how Radhanath Swami always remains blissful. When we met him in the GEV for a morning walk to see the cows and a lot of other aspects of the Govardhan Eco Village, which he relished showing us and taking his time, strolling through the various places at the GEV and telling us histories of various cows who live there, of how the chicken hen raised the peacocks, of how the swans, which are usually territorial, aren't because they feed them so much, and therefore the swans and the geese and the ducks all live in harmony. He called it village wisdom. And as we went through the various parts of the GEV, he told us about what the lessons were that we could take away, and I wrote them down in my book. Something that we have in our relationship, because I always have my little book with my pen, and he always chuckles to see me pull it out and write down the things that he's saying and aspects of our conversation. When we met him that morning, and as Nirakula mentioned, we already knew that he was taxed because he had been giving himself fully, as he always does at the yatra, travel, and we knew that he was suffering some kind of ailment because even that night before he had been coughing wherever he went, but he never mentioned it. And when we greeted one another in the morning, I said, how are you? Forgetting that he always has the same answer whenever I've asked him that in the past. Do you know what it is? He said, I'm happy. It's the only answer I've ever heard from him when asking him, how are you? And then as I'm saying it, I'm thinking how foolish I am to ask him how he is. I should know how he is. He's happy. Why? In the Upadeshamrita, Rupa Goswami describes how various devotees have qualities at their level of advancement. And he says that the most advanced devotee is free, nindadi shunya, from ninda. Ninda is a bitter feeling. It's a feeling that rankles one's heart to see others doing well, in which one feels compelled to point out the darker side of the person's achievement, even if it's glorious. But when one is pure in heart and has no more ninda shunya. We don't like the word shunya because, shunyavadi. But the application for us is that those who are ninda shunya are noticeable because the penchant of everyone else in the material world, besides those who are ninda shunya, is to find some fault somewhere in others. And therefore, Rupa Goswami says, Nindari shunya hridamipsita sangalabhya. You should try to gain that association of the person who's ninda shunya. And when I observe Radhanath Maharaj, which I like to do, because he's very beautiful, his body is like prasadam. It is prasadam. And his movements are very graceful. Everything that he does is deliberate because he's fully conscious of Krishna. And as he moves, I notice the beauty of his movements, the way he'll sit when he chants at the harmonium, or even when he's taking prasadam. It's not just beautiful, but it's also charming to be with him at those times. One anecdote in that regard is that taking prasadam with Maharaj is one of my most joyful times in life, because we normally sit across from one another, at least when we're at our home. He'll come up for prasadam, and whatever I do, then he does. Even if it's something he never asked for or doesn't like, and I have odd eating habits. Like I like a lot of pepper, and an inordinate amount of pepper. I think it's like gold. I put it on everything, and I also put lime on everything. And so Maharaj, when he sits across, if I put 7 twists from the pepper grinder, he insists on 7, not less. And if I take lime, he takes lime. And I'm thinking, I don't think he likes some of these things. But just to be heart to heart while we're taking prasadam, he naturally does this out of the way that he's deeply loving to everybody and his godbrothers. He wants to be there and be heart to heart. And that's one of the ways that he expresses that. And so, in observing him, I notice that he's respectful to all. You said earlier his favorite verse was Churnata Pisini Chena. I think we need an AI search, because I think it's Vidya Vinaya Sampane. And I sometimes joke about it. And also Savai Pum Samparo Dharmo. Yato Bhakti Riruksajay. But the way Maharaj quotes verses, he'll take one verse, and when he says it, it's almost like a feast, or the preparations, every word is a preparation in the feast that he's speaking, and the way he gracefully holds himself when he says the verse, holding forth for the whole sampradaya, and as a spokesperson for Krishna himself and speaking the verse, it's delectable, it's intriguing, it's entrancing, and it's beautiful. And when somebody has no vested interest in the material world, then such a person has the liberty to be friendly and caring to every living being. And this is Maharaj's quality. If you look at him, he has no jewelry, no watch, some shoes, and now it's hard to tell whose shoes is whose because everyone's got his shoes. He'll put them outside and we'll come out and there's 20 more that look just like them. But they're simple. And one piece of cloth, on top, one on the bottom. No vested interest in the world, only a vested interest in fulfilling the desires of his spiritual master. And therefore, the material world doesn't touch him, and therefore, he shines forth in any assembly. It's the soul disengaged from the material world and engaged fully in Krishna's service that really shines forth in any assembly. And it's palpable for all. I notice wherever we go, if we're walking on a trail, people are naturally attracted to stopping and talking to him because they feel that quality in him. Nindadi Shunya. So one who has no vested interest except for pleasing Krishna is always a friend to everyone, as the Goswamis are glorified by Srinivasacharya, who said that the gentle and the ruffians were attracted. That's a sign. And it's rare. So Maharaj is the rarest of the rare. And he, even in spite of the onslaught of difficult choices he has to make, what to speak of the ways in which he has taken on a great burden on himself. As an example, in speaking to him before we went to India, he was in Chicago and we had a conversation on the phone. And he told me that he had been spending a lot of time talking to devotees who were leaving their bodies or about to leave their bodies. And I started calculating, when you take on disciples in the thousands and then tens of thousands, it means that at practically every moment, or multiple times a moment, there'll be traumatic expressions from people coming to you, because who else will they tell? They want to tell Maharaj because he's their life and soul. And when they're getting ready to leave the world, or somebody else in their family is, who else can give them solace except for Maharaj, who has no vested interest in this world, and whose only interest is to see that that disciple is properly situated at Krishna's lotus feet. And without complaint, he talks about how he'll spend 5, 6, 7 hours, one after the other, talking to those who are in distress and solacing them. And I've seen him do it because we went to visit Dr. Dhoti, who unfortunately passed away not so long ago, but we had the opportunity. Sundar Prabhu was there also, thankfully. And I just saw how Maharaj held his hand, and Dr. Dhoti also held Radhanath Maharaj's hand. It seemed that he was in a he was in an extremely precarious situation. And Maharaj gave him hope. He held his hand, and I could see how he had extracted from Dr. Dhoti, or seen in him, the best of qualities. Just like Krishna does when he sees anyone, he finds out that quality that is admirable and brings it out. And therefore, Maharaj's advice to be blissful can only truly be fulfilled by becoming divested from one's holdings, that is, holding on to anarthas in the material world, as he has done. And to have given up the ego of competing with all living beings to try to shine more than they are, and to be happy for others to shine forth. And these are qualities that distinguish Maharaj in the world, not just among us here, but in assemblies all over the world of those who know him and are close to him, but amongst all who meet him. And this is the genuine condition of Maharaj, that he's Nindadi Shunya. And to that end, when we went around Vrindavan, that is the Vrindavan at the GEV, I knew I was in Vrindavan, and I wrote to Maharaj just before we left there, and I said that I saw how Prabhupada went everywhere in the world, and he manifested Vrindavan wherever he went, because look at all the temples. Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhai. There's little kunjas everywhere. Could be Las Vegas or Chicago or Santa Fe. It didn't matter, because it was an emanation from Prabhupada's heart that Krishna appeared there, because of Śrīla Prabhupada's intense desire for others to come close and to be able to serve Krishna personally. And I told Maharaj, I saw last night when you showed us around what your heart looks like on the inside. Now the rendering of Vrindavan in the GEV is exactly Vrindavan. Every details count. And those who want to glorify Krishna, they want to make sure everything is perfect. That's why he was so eager to show us everything, because he was showing us his heart. And every aspect of the GEV is rendered as a perfect replica of Vrindavan, the Madan Mohan temple, to scale exact size, and proportionately the whole campus is arranged by Maharaj's spiritual genius through his genius disciples to resemble Vrindavan. And I said, now I saw your heart clearly last night when you showed us around Vrindavan, because that's where Maharaj lives, always in Vrindavan. And therefore he's Nindadi Shunya, just like when Prabhupada was in Gita Nagari. There was a scene with some different animals there where they were cohorting with one another in a gentle and friendly way, even a cat and a mouse. And Prabhupada noted it, and he said, did you see how they're friends? Did you see that? And he pointed out how the animals were cooperating with one another and they weren't envious of one another. He said, that is Vrindavan. And that is Maharaj's Vrindavan. He lives in it, in his heart. And therefore, when he meets anyone, that person doesn't want to let go of his hand or move away from his association, because they feel, for once in their sojourn here in this material world, that I'm in the presence of Vrindavan. And Srivas Pandit told me years ago, when he was explaining why he surrendered to Radhanath Maharaj, he said, I hadn't met him, but I went to Chopati, and I was so overwhelmed by the environment there that he said to Krishna, whoever made this, that person I'm going to take as my master. And then he made it his life and soul. So the guidance that Maharaj gave me to be blissful may be a lifetimes of work for me, but I find in it the essence of his heart. Why else would he think of that immediately when explaining how to deal with management? He could have told me to go get an MBA. But he told me, always be blissful, because he's always blissful. So we're so fortunate in many places where we have various leaders, and ISKCON's noticeably a complex organization because of different authorities. In fact, people have written papers about it and stewed over it for years, parallel lines and this and that. And these things are important to think about, but you really can't solve them completely by administration. There has to be nindadi shunya. And Maharaj, as an example here, he'll just say, the way to please me is please your authority. And it's not expedient, although it does create expedience. It's not because, well, I'll say, it is because he's fully willing to delegate to others. Because he doesn't have a vested interest. As Krishna says, nirmana moha, citta sangoso. Nirman, don't be nirman, or be nirman, or don't be the man. Everyone wants to say, I thought of this, these are my people, and so forth. But wherever Maharaj goes, he delegates with full faith and trust that the devotees will be able to work together if he shows the example of nirman and nindadi shunya. So this is Maharaj's effect on all of us. That we've been able to somehow or other create a miracle here, that we have a small little community, but we love one another. I see even it spreads to the kids. When a kid wins a prize, everybody else claps. That's coming from his heart. And all of you, you're coming from his heart. And how else would we be able, all of us, from different cultures and mindsets, to be able to work together? It's because of Maharaj's heart. So I can only glorify him and appreciate that his heart radiates all over the world. It radiates here and it radiates from all of you because you're his recipients. And you're also nindadi shunya. So on this day of Maharaj's 75th, just pray to become blissful. And that may we all follow in his footsteps and do selfless service to please Śrīla Prabhupāda and the previous acharyas. Śrīla Radhanath Swami ki jai. The followers of Śrīla Radhanath Swami ki. Dear Śrīla Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatava, Śrīla Radhanath Swami, if you so desire, please instill in us your mood of Trinadapi Sunichena, and let us emulate the teaching of your most oft-quoted verse, Trinadapi Sunichena, and Vidya Vinaya Sambhane, by treating everyone with respect in appropriate ways. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please say Hare Krishna. We're deeply touched that you have us here. Wouldn't be a complete year without getting us somehow snuck in here to express our hearts, although incompletely, glorifying Maharaj. Hare Krishna.